Hey, family. Nice to see y'all again. Back at it
You,
again to chop it up to discuss some things. But before we get started, why don't y'all check in, tell us your name, where you're from, how you feeling?
all right, I'll jump in. What's going on, everybody? Vince Ford, Columbus, Ohio. Feeling good, feeling great. We got a lot of snow today, but I thank God for the heater, man. If it weren't for the heater, man, I wouldn't be warm. So I'm thankful for that. I shoveled my driveway. It doesn't look like I did, but I didn't want to be the only house on the block that didn't shovel my driveway. So, but I'm here.
It's always good to see you, bro. I guess I'll go next. Y'all hear that echo?
Nah.
I hear it.
Oh.
And maybe it's because people were unmuted. I'm not sure. Anyways, it's Alvin Eddington Jr., the prophet, the poet, and player. No, I'm just playing. Y'all know who it is. Man, South Central Los Angeles. I mean, that's it, man. I got on the Crenshaw representing it, and the west side of California, South Central. Also representing worship. Got to worship God. Got that from nah, they're not paying us, so I'm not going to say we're there. Anyways, that's who I am. That's where I'm at.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Leonard. Oh, man. Teflon John, living in H-Town, Texas, from the great state of Florida, representing the Orlando Magic. Even though they're last place in the NBA, that's okay. This is going to make that championship one day even greater. Good to see y'all. Good to be here. Love y'all.
I guess that's on me. So, what's up, everybody? Carlos Jackson, your friendly neighborhood local superhero by night, and your brother in Christ by day. Coming from Northern California, repping that Bay Area. So, let's get it.
And I'm Christina, Quiet Storm, living in the beautiful Bay, but always repping LA, loving the Crenshaw, marathon clothing, sweatshirt, and I'm feeling pretty good. Um, so we're just going to go ahead and jump in. We're about 24 days into the new year, and around this time of year, it's a lot of talk about resolutions and manifestations and all types of stuff. So I just wanted to check in with y'all to see how you're feeling so far this year and if you've gotten your resolutions in order and how those things are going so far.
I'll go first. Man, I don't necessarily do resolutions. I committed the first 6 months of this year to me, and what that looks like is dedicating time to my mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical health. And so, and I've started off I don't know, reflecting a lot this month. I've really been reflecting and trying to figure out where it is that I want to go. I'm almost half a century, so I feel like the next part of my life is like, I mean, it's very, very, very important. So if God allows me to see another, 30, 40, 50 years, I want to go out strong. So, the rest of my life is going to be the best of my life. So I got to figure these things out, and put things in order. So that's what I've really been doing. I've been a lot of reflecting, so that I can, get the right direction that God has for me, not what my minister has for me, not what my wife has for me, not what my children believe I should be, but what God has for me. So I need to clear out some things and open up myself through prayer and fasting for God to be able to just reveal some things to me about me and which direction I should go. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in on that, man. I like something that you said. You said that the next half of your life is going to be the best half of your life. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately because um, I've been reading, I finished Job, reading the book of Job in the New Living Translation version. And what stood out to me was in the last chapter of Job, chapter 42, the Bible says that God blessed Job's latter half better than his before. And I've just been thinking about that because I'm 38, right? And I just got off of a Zoom talking about finances and investing. And, the presenter who was from Morgan Stanley was like, 40 is actually a pretty good time to start investing because, you got 20 years worth of experience from being, young. And now you still got another 20 years that you can essentially chip away at. So to answer CMO's question, I'm thankful, man. I'm thankful, man. Like this year kind of came quick and I didn't make a resolution, but I can be honest with y'all, man. I've been eating better this year and man, it sucks. It straight sucks. Like, I've been cooking more, you know what I'm saying? I've been cutting down on junk and I've been wanting so much. The stuff I want is calling me, it's calling me. And let me say this too. I'm back in the gym 3 days a week, right? This whole idea of a cheat day, let me tell y'all, man, that's overrated. That is so overrated because last week I was like, man, you know what? It's Saturday. I deserve a cheat day. I ain't gonna tell y'all what I ate. Let me just tell y'all my stomach was hurting for 2 days after that.
Did you have some Taco Bell wings, Los?
Nah, you know what? Taco Bell is on my, no fly zone list. Taco Bell and McDonald's are the only two, man. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. But nah, I ain't messing with them alien wings.
Pigeon wings, I'm telling you, don't do it. To your question, I didn't set resolutions, but I did set goals for this year. And I'm a project manager. Like that's my trade. That's what I do. So very like structured, and it's been helpful having having goals and like things to get to those goals. So I have to achieve something every month to get there, and also have accountability partners. So actually, I meet with them on Monday, and we'll talk about if we accomplished what we were supposed to accomplish, and it just helps hold me accountable. So
I didn't really set any goals, more so that I did some things that I wanted to be better at and accomplish, things that I want to pray about daily. I set some goals, some parameters. We're praying with my wife, praying for my children, devotionals with my kids, things of that nature, becoming better at my craft, um, working on my physical fitness, just really, really, really taking a bigger step. I mean, I've made some gains, but trying to make some bigger steps at that. It's funny, man, because Juan will say, all the time, he always tell me, hey, man, it only take 3 bad meals to ruin 30 good days of good eating. So that's just something that I always think about, the back of my head. But one of the things that I really, really been trying to focus on is figuring out how my creativity can spill over to my kids, how they can help me be more creative, how we could join in on the creativity together, and create some things together as a family, rather than just me doing a bunch of things. But really, mostly just really praying over these things that I want to be better at. I think that's one of the things that I lacked. The hard work was there, but just making sure that I was, having a constant conversation with God about being a better husband, being a better father, and then also being on the opposite side. I usually, if y'all know, I try to be the one to kind of get people to come out of their shell and do things. And but I've been getting some requests. I've had the opportunity to be on a couple podcasts and do a few things for some other platforms that really don't have anything to do with me, but just to enhance what they're doing. So I'm kind of liking that side of it more so than being the side trying to get other people to shine. So which I still want to do that, but nonetheless, that's kind of where I'm at right now. But really taking a big step toward my fitness over the next year. Even into when I hit 40, I want to be in the best shape that I could possibly be in. Hands down. That's one of my biggest goals.
I feel you on that, bro. I'm 2 years away from 40. I'll be 39 this year. And one of my immediate goals is to get into back into full court basketball shape by the summer. So I'm like, I get out there and I was shooting around on Saturday with my homeboy and his son. And I was like, man, I remember when I can get up and down this court with the youngsters. And now that's my short-term goal.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna pray for your knees because that ain't a goal of mine. That ain't a goal of mine. I just want to look like I can. I don't necessarily want to be able to do it, but I want to look the part. So my boys is getting bigger. Raynell will probably be taller than me tomorrow. So I want to be able to just look like I shouldn't be tested. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to get on that Christina wavelength. I know she be on her fitness pretty heavy.
Right?
I'm trying. Yeah, I appreciate y'all, and I relate to so much of what you said. For a long time, I didn't really subscribe to New Year's resolutions because I was just of the mind that, if there's something that you want to work on, you have to wait to the new year to do it. But recently, I realized that the change of a year is a space where I do a lot of reflecting. So, at the beginning of the year, I like to do what I call accomplishments and goal reflection. So I reflect on accomplishments from the previous year, and I use that as a bit of a guidepost to help me set goals for the upcoming year. And it's just sort of like a lot of processing that takes place. But I will say that this year, that process went a little slower than it normally does because when I think about the last couple years, I just feel like so much has happened since we've been in the pandemic and, with, police brutality, like the change in politics, all types of things that it took me a little longer to process. And I just needed a period to rest. But I've been back at it and thinking about the goals and accomplishments. And what I realize is that the majority of the goals that I set for the year have to do with mental changes for me. Different ways that I want to change, different ways that I want to think, different things that I want to unpack and process from, my childhood and upbringing and things like that. So, I do have some, health goals on there as well. But I'm just realizing a lot of it has to do with personal change or relational change. And I've just been giving myself space to take time to get to the goals for this year.
I want to ask y'all a question, and I could be the only one, but sometimes I feel like 2020 and 2021 was just one big long year. Like it didn't feel like 2 years. It felt like just this long, drawn out year. Like they went by so fast, but it was so much going on. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, last year, and it's like, oh, that happened in 2020, right? Like, sometimes I go through this thing where I'm like, man, we've been in this pandemic a year, and it's like, no, this is year 3, Playboy. So I feel like time is even changing within itself. I watched this video of Questlove today, and he was talking about how you become an expert, right? Like 5 years or 6 hours of practice a day on said craft. And I was like, man, that's a lot of time, to really devote to one thing. But then when you think about it, think about all the things that we have accomplished in the last couple of years. I honestly think, knowing y'all like I know y'all, I feel like everybody's kind of, been on the come up, rather than, us, really struggling. Yeah, I have had some struggle days, but it ain't like I just been losing at life. So, I'm real thankful for that. But, it kind of puts me in a frame of mind where let me not get too relaxed because there's still a lot of work out here to do.
Yeah, let me validate about the years overlapping because I'm still working hybrid / remote. So today I went into the office and I still have my 2020 calendar on my desk and on my wall. And I'm like, I literally remember filling it out, right? I remember filling out the month the shutdown happened, and so much has changed. I don't have the same clients, right? A lot more new referrals. But I will say this though, man. I love when the calendar changes to a new year because and when 2020 started, for me, that's when my credit started growing because a lot of the stuff that was on my credit report for 7 years, it dropped off, big dog.
That's always a good thing.
Call that Jubilee.
Yeah, yeah. The past 2 years have been a blur. And that's as I've been reflecting this month, I was like, man, I did accomplish a lot, and I have to give myself some kudos for the things that I've accomplished. But at the same time, I was like, man, it slowed down a lot of other things that I had planned to do. And so I find myself having to go back and kind of pull some of that stuff that I was like, man, this pandemic that threw it off, push that to the side and, just push forward. But I got to pick up some of those things and figure out how to refocus in 2022 those things that I had dropped off, in March of 2020. So yeah, man, it's been like a blur. It doesn't seem like it's been 2 years. It really doesn't. March to be what, we'd be heading to our third year of this thing. And yeah, I guess it has kind of all just meshed together.
Yeah, the pandemic years are definitely fuzzy for me. But I agree that so much growth has taken place. So we haven't been back in the office since the shelter in place order in March of 2020. So I do think that like with the lack of, I don't know, like change of scenery, things just sort of seem to meld together. Because for me, where I live is where I work. Really just only going to the grocery store, maybe hanging out with a few people in my bubble, and now going back to service now that, it's reopened. But they definitely meld together. But I'm grateful. It was initially very difficult to transition to working from home and just sort of being with myself. But it helped me realize that I was blaming a lot of things for what was going on in my life. And then when I had time to be with myself and those things were still happening, I was like, okay, it's me. So I need to do something about that. So it's been a challenging process, but a lot of growth has come from it. So, although it's under circumstances that, we all don't want to be in, I'm grateful for the growth that's taken place.
Working from home is great. It's beautiful. I I was doing it halftime in 2019, and then we just gone home permanently. And I saved so much money with gas and food, and I don't got to see people stop by my desk. I don't really want to talk to and do chit chat. It's great. I love it.
Hey,
Back
Lynn,
to huh?
real quick, I'm the type of coworker you got to put that sign on my back. Like if you stop to talk to me, I'm not gonna get no work done for 2 hours.
Facts. Facts on facts.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I feel y'all, man, but man, it's tough when you kind of work in a environment solo. I'm used to folks coming by the church and and when they were coming by the church, I'd be in my feelings like, man, I can't get no work done, man. I come up here trying to get some work done, and all these people coming up here needing stuff, and it's like now it's like it feel like a ghost town. A lot of days. There's certain weeks, man, where besides Sunday morning, man, I'm the only person in the building. Our administrator has the ability to work remote. Our nonprofit administrator has the ability to work remote. So, with all this COVID going on, and, Lo, she talk about a calendar. The order of worship, I just saw it from March 2020. It was still up by the baptismal because that's where we used to meet before we had worship. And I'm like, man, like I still remember that Sunday like it was yesterday. I'll just be honest with y'all, man. I'm at a place now where I'll just be glad when this is over, man. I mean, even if it's a new way of life, that we got to be masked up, which I'm okay with that. But just all of these numbers and cases rising and people hospitalized and no ICU beds, man. I'm sick and tired of that.
Yeah, bro. That's real life, man. My auntie called me yesterday from LA, and Big Dog, you probably know about this, but like the hospital, like surgeries are postponed like months out. Like 2,000 surgeries are like being canceled a day, and she's battling cancer. And like, thankfully, she got some good news. But she was like, "Man, I'm just glad I was able to get in."
Yeah, we've been back and forth with my son on this autism and stuff, man. And we had a dentist appointment set, and I had to schedule it like 6 months out. Dentist appointment was that Thursday. Then the hospital called and was like, "Hey, we can do his eval on that same day." So like as a parent, it's like, yeah, I want my son to, go to the dentist, but I also want to figure out, what is going on with him cognitively. And so it's tough, man. Like, can't, that's some of the horrors that, we really don't talk about. I feel like enough how it's affecting families. People are having elective surgeries that essentially could prolong their life. They're having to put off, and folks is dying and all of these other things. And then people are dying abruptly, and, people don't know what's going on, man. So, it's a tough season, man. It's a real tough season. And I'm just thankful that God has allowed us to, get through it in the way that he has. But man, for the most part, man, it's taking a toll on a number of folks.
And then I think the other thing, you talked about church and people coming to visit you. We have to be like really intentional about figuring out like who's missing. And I don't know, y'all can talk about this from a minister standpoint, but I know a lot of people who left the church over the past 2 years because they are now isolated. I mean, they were already isolated before, but it's like amplified now. So, I mean, that's a big wear and tear on leadership from church perspective. But being intentional about, there's like a certain list of people I call. I make sure I call them every month, just check in, see what's going on. And I didn't do that initially, but you get like a year later and like, dang, I ain't talked to such and such in a long time. So yeah, really being intentional about checking in because people really appreciate that. Because everybody going through stuff, but the fact that you take time out to call or check in, that's big.
Man, that's a man. Talk about checking in at church. I've been struggling. We just, we're it's gonna keep going right now. I've been struggling with how to engage church people, specifically at my congregation. Um, Engage them outside of what we typically have done. You know, do I call? Yes. Do I, I check on people? Yes. But that's not enough, right? I miss, I miss the actual engagement, the hanging out, the, after church, let's go eat. Even at church, it's like, I spend 2 hours just chilling at church after church. Like seriously, like not being able to do that. It's getting to me. And this not this Sunday, but the Sunday before, we're back to, we didn't have any people in the building other than for us, those who were recording the service. And I was the only one there. The praise and worship team wasn't there. So, I had to preach to two or three people. And I was like, man, we back here again? Like, dang, like this, I'm tired. Like, put my best foot forward, but I was worn out. um, you know, and couldn't go and hang out with nobody. I had to drive back home, and you know what I'm saying. And so I'm tired of this. I'm like Vince. I'm ready for this thing to do what it's gonna do, get back to normal. But also, I've been looking at all these football games and basketball games and all these arenas packed, and nobody got on masks. A few people may have on a mask. And I'm like, man, where the church people at, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? We have precautions in place, we have things in place. But it's like where they at? They going to concerts, they going to basketball games, football games, went to baseball games, but people, are reluctant to come back to church. And so that's not only bothersome, it's worrisome. I don't know what church is going to look like when it's all said and done. I don't know, how much more we have to invest in our virtual spaces. But I know we're going to have to invest more in our virtual spaces, in these virtual platforms. And, a lot of churches are not equipped, because I watch a lot of different congregations, and some people still just have the one tripod, like sitting in the middle of the church. And, and that doesn't keep people watch that, and they get turned off by those type of things. And so I'm just like, man, what we gonna do? Not just Metro, but all of us. How are we going to better serve? Um, you know, Hopefully it's a tentative, but this new way of worship, right? So yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about as it pertains to this pandemic. So when you guys were talking, I was like, man, I'm worried. I am, and I'm not a worrier, but I'm worried.
Yeah, can I comment on that? Uh, well, let me two quick comments. I'm gonna go back to something Christina said about leaving the house to go to the grocery store. So I keep seeing this meme pop up, and I'm thinking it's just talking to me specifically because I keep seeing it. But it says, I'm at the age where going to the grocery store counts as going out. And I'm like, man, if that ain't me, right? And then I saw another one that said, I'm at the age where I can go out in the morning or I can go out at night, but I can't do both. And I'll be feeling like, the grocery store does count as an outing, like, but anyway, I'm with you. I like everything you said, Big Dog, because I think about my life when I hated church, right? I think about how much I hated church. And to be on the other side of that, it's like, I love being around the people of God. I love being around the saints. I love that fellowship. I love the talking and joking and laughing after the fact, man. Like, I love the interactions, and I consider myself an extrovert, but I know deep down I'm probably more of an ambivert because I don't like big crowds, and I'm only myself when I'm around people I know. But I miss seeing y'all like in person on a regular. Like, I feel like we took that for granted, and maybe that's just human nature, right? We don't miss people till they're dead and gone, right? Is that just what it is?
Well, I don't know if that's well. I don't know if that's what it is. I kind of feel like the pandemic, emphasized that, but I believe people kind of took folks for granted before this happened. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like we was breaking our neck to get the family reunions. It was more so, Big Mama dies, and then we're like, oh man, we got to start getting together a little bit more. And so now the pandemic really showed us, like, yeah, we really got to start getting together a little bit more. One of the things that, like, I know for me, 2020, I was really looking forward because before the pandemic, 2019, I got a chance to see a lot of my cousins in Florida that I hadn't seen since I was 8 years old. They all came to my dad's house for Thanksgiving. It was like 40 people inside my dad's crib. I'm talking about cousins I hadn't seen since I was a little boy. And they was like, yeah, we having a family reunion. It was 2019. Next year in July, it's going to be in South Carolina. I'm like, oh, bet. I'm putting money back, I go home December, put some money back, January, put some money back. And then this pandemic hit, and it's like, man, we never know when we're not going to be able to see family again. So, if anything, I just feel like it just kind of helped us understand how much we took this for granted because we felt like we could miss stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, I'll catch the next birthday party. Well, now it might not be another next birthday party. So, we just got to be real careful with that. We got to take every single opportunity that we can to show and express our love to our loved ones.
I agree. And one thing that I will add is, Alvin, you mentioned how, now we're in these virtual spaces. And um, although, the pandemic has been challenging for us to not be able to meet in person, personally for me, there has been a lot of growth and there's been a lot of opportunity for me to connect with people that I typically wouldn't when, I was just going to the building and hanging out with folks that were sort of in my circle. There have been a few calls via Zoom that have started at our congregation since the pandemic, and one of them is a sister's call, and it was meeting a need, and it's been such a blessing for us, and we've all been able to be extremely vulnerable and like grow closer to each other. And there's a few others that I can think of. So, I do think that a piece of getting to this new normal is just realizing how this virtual space can be best utilized so that, everybody's needs can be met in this place where they feel most comfortable. And the only other thing that I'll add is that it was a transition for me to return to in-person worship service. And I remember our minister, Amar Sahili, saying, it's a transition to move to the shelter-in-place order, but the bigger transition will be to return to worship. And it was a challenge for me because I had grown accustomed to being on Zoom, which is what we do. And it was very interactive for me. There were people who would maybe come off mute that wouldn't normally speak in Bible study, or people that would add comments to the chat that wouldn't usually speak. So I got to hear these new voices that I wasn't hearing prior to the pandemic. And I felt really close and connected to all those people, so that when we moved to in-person worship service and I was no longer online, for me, I was feeling a bit of disconnect with those members. And it took me a while to refocus and to sort of appreciate the fact that I was back in person and just sort of this new normal. So I think just reminding people that maybe are hesitant to return that it'll be a transition to go back, and it might not be the easiest one, but it's a process and it's worth it if you can.
Can I kick up some dust real quick? So I like what you said, definitely the transition, but I also want to tie in what Alvin said, because Alvin said, if you look at the football games, the stadiums are packed, right? And I went to a Warriors game 3 weeks ago. Let me tell you, man, I was like paranoid. Even though they make everybody show their ID vaccination card in there, people walking around with no mask, talking, and I'm 6'1", right? So I'm already sitting there with no leg room. My knee was at the back of someone's head. I was super uncomfortable. I'm like, man, why are people so comfortable in this space? But when I think about other space, like mainly church, it's like we're still hesitant. But I mean, people, we outside, right? So that's it.
I'll say in response to Christina's comment, what relationships are going to last? They lasted. If I think the pandemic also exposed, like, we go to church and we see people like, hey, how you doing? How's your week and all that stuff. Like, we didn't really have real relationships with people, if we're being honest. But there are, including you all on this call, there's some people that over the past 2 years, I've gotten to know them more. And it's just been Zoom. So, what's meant to survive, survived. I'll say there's probably some relationships that people were in that they shouldn't have been in, and the stay at home order or wherever you were, wherever they called it, probably helped break up some stuff that shouldn't have been happening in the first place too. So, you know, I see it, and I hear you all say what you said, but I think there's there's some good stuff and some that happened from the pandemic as well. Yeah, entanglements.
Yeah, I think it just, again, the pandemic emphasized some stuff. I mean, the church been competing with pro sports. We've been competing with AAU. We've been competing with, if you live on the West Coast, going to the beach on a Sunday morning or brunch. We've been competing with that stuff. And right now it's just emphasized. Shout out to Stacey Jones, man, because at the beginning of this pandemic, man, brother preached, I believe it was for the Joshua Conference, and it was virtual. And he basically said, like, either this pandemic is gonna like stretch, who you already are. It's gonna expose who you never were. And so that's what I'm starting to see. I mean, people go where they want to go. And I'm the type of person that I'm not gonna fuss about it, because people gonna be who they gonna be. And if they gonna go and watch the Buckeyes play and post pictures and have a grand time, but church pandemic, then it's just exposing who you already are, man. And I think this is what this pandemic has done. It has just truly exposed who we are naturally, what we worked on, what we refused to work on. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, instead of spending $24.99 at your local LA Fitness, you were just taking that money and you were going to Dick's Sporting Goods and you were buying gym equipment that's collecting dust right now. Or you spent money on a Peloton that you ain't got on in months. And so again, it's just exposing everything that you already were. And so and even furthermore, it's also exposed a lot of the racism and the misogyny and all of those things in our country, man. Like, because people have time to sit around and be exactly who we like. What? Shout out to Benny Green. What do you say? Well, they were who we thought they were. So, I think that's what it boils down to. That's what I'm starting to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Vince. I was on a Zoom. I was on a National Violence Prevention Network Zoom. I was one of the panel speakers, and really, I just said, man, this pandemic exposed what many of us deal with daily, right? We've been getting killed by the police. We've been dealing with violence. Violence has been a pandemic, right? But we want to treat it like an epidemic, like, oh, it's just them people over there in the hood, and poor black people or poor white people, poor Latino people. But the pandemic definitely exposed what was already there. But now what, though? I guess that's what I'm asking. Like, now what? So do we just sit back and watch, or what? Do we respond?
Man, I think that's where my struggle is. It's like, I don't want to fuss at people. You guys have heard me preach. That's kind of in my wheelhouse of, man, getting on people, man, like trying to encourage and motivate. But I've been trying to sit back and watch and pay attention. Jonathan posted a question in the group about, demographics and, what is the church doing to build relationships between different generations. And so I've been trying to watch all the different generations and how they're responding. The older people are the ones who are typically, going back to worship, right? And the younger people, younger adults, are, less inclined. Those who have families are going to church. Those who are single are seemingly not going to church as readily. And so I'm just sitting back and watching and seeing how people are just moving. And then, trying to figure out what spaces I can meet them in, right? If they're not going to come to church, then, where can I meet them at? Where am I going to be comfortable being able to go? And am I comfortable going to the brunch, right? They're going to the Sunday brunch. Am I comfortable doing that? Is that in my comfort zone? As far as, mask, no mask, just period, even spiritually for me, am I going to be tempted by the mimosas? And, next thing you see, Alvin, the next little viral video, Alvin turned up at the, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to figure out not so much how I can get people back into the church, as much as what I need to do in order to go and meet people, proverbially where they are. Literally, like, we talk about this all the time as ministers. Jesus was in them streets, right? I haven't been in them streets as much. Why? Because it's a pandemic. And so, I'm like, man, y'all come to me. Everybody come to me. No, I have to figure out a way where I can go meet people where they are. So that's what I've been looking at, is, trying to change my own mindset on what church should look like, even though I want it to look like one way. It may look like me going to the park with my homies who I grew up with, drinking 40s, not me drinking a 40. My 40 days over, y'all. And just chopping it up with them and talking to them about life in the Lord. So that's where I'm at with it. That's my, that's what I'm resolving to do within myself, is figure out ways that I can go and be impactful outside of the church walls. St. Ives, brother.
So I want to ask you all about an event that happened during the pandemic, January 6, 2021. We all know that day. I remember being at work, and we have a African American employee resource group, and people were like, "This is so sad," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I go downstairs and turn on CNN, and I see all these people unmelanated at the Capitol building. I see Trump signs and flags, and I also see Jesus flags, like right alongside um, these Trump signs and flags. And I'm like, what are they doing? Number one, like, what do they think they're going to accomplish? Two, I remember being really upset because, the old adage, like, if it was us, it'd have been blood in the streets. Um, and I was like really conflicted of how to, and I've had time to like process this. I also watched a documentary on HBO Max, 4 hours at the Capitol, which, man, is crazy. But I want to know, like, as a Christian, because my first thought was not Christian at all. And it's still, I'd be struggling with it. But I want to know, like, as a Christian, how we should look at events like that, where, I don't know, people, again, Trump and Jesus flags, like, right next to each other. Like, how do y'all feel about that? And how should we think about it as Christians?
How do I feel about Jesus and Trump? No. How I feel about the insurrection? How I feel about, man, look, man, I get discouraged by our great country, man, because man, I'm getting emotional about it, because I know if those people look like us, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it'd have been a whole different situation. And I'm seeing people get 6 months and a year, or, probation for their part in, the insurrection. I don't care what they want to call it, their part in it. And it's very disheartening. It's sad. It's sad because I know a number of those people claim Jesus. It's sad because when you go back and just look at that day, you remember that there was a noose in the front of the Capitol building, and then there were crosses. And there, I mean, I'm like, it's like, Christians getting a bad rap. Now I got to talk to my Hebrew Israelites and my Kemetic scholars, and I have to defend. This is not the white man's religion, and these, no disrespect to folks who have your own thoughts, but now I got to go and defend in my culture and in my community. I got to defend Christ against this. And so it's another fight that I didn't even put, what I'm saying? I didn't even put that out there. But now I got to fight this battle in order to represent Christ right. And so for me, man, to me, it's just unfair. If I had one word to capture how I felt about that day, in general, it's just unfair on a lot of different fronts. I felt that the whole thing was unfair to me as a black man, black Christian man. It was unfair. It was unfair. It was ridiculous. So that's my short answer, my political correct answer.
I agree. It's frustrating. And to be perfectly honest, I still haven't completely processed all of my feelings associated with it, because I'm not ready to go to those places, because a lot of anger and other various things come up for me. So I kind of intentionally didn't think too much about it when the anniversary rolled around this year. But I do remember when it happened and first thinking, like, wow, the audacity that this is occurring. And secondly, the difference in treatment of these people. But one discussion that has been coming up a lot as it relates to voting rights acts and, various things happening in the Senate are this discussion about Democrats in name only. So they call them like Dinos or something like that. And when I look at these people who are at the Capitol and, you know, doing all these heinous things and having Jesus flags and just being hateful, I look at that as Christians, quote unquote Christians in name only. And what I would call people to do is to look at the fruit, right? It's easy to say what you are, but what fruit are you bearing? And if you're not bearing Christian fruit, then I can't call you that. And I can't can't hang my hat on that. So that's my short synopsis of things.
See, that's why Leno will call you Pastor Moore, because that'll preach. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, man, you really just blew my top right now. That's real. Look at the fruit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody say one thing, but your fruit is going to show. The crazy thing about me for that day was January 6, 2021, I was in Fairfield taking an exam for law enforcement. I left my house at 6 a.m. The exam was at 8 a.m. I didn't leave until 3 p.m. I got home around 4 p.m. Turned on the news. I had no idea what was going on the whole day. So even when I got home, I was so tired, I didn't realize really what was going on until the next day. And then I was like, wow. Like, I didn't have words. Like you guys said, I didn't have words. And I'm just like, I live next to a huge Trump supporter, man. This guy is a huge Trump supporter. And it's like, he terrifies me. You know what I'm saying? I'll walk to your hood, the Brim's hood, every hood. I'll walk down the street with Bloods and Crips on each side before I walk by these white supremacists because they're terrorists. All right. Funny thing is, when the anniversary came up, what was that, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? So I was watching the Warriors game the other day, and the Warriors were playing terrible. I mean, I was sitting here so upset watching how terrible the Warriors were playing. I'm turning this crap off. You know what I turned on? Trafficked by National Geographic, which was talking about white supremacy, which brought all that right back up. It went all the way back to Charlottesville in 2017. And I'm just like, it was addressing the anniversary. Like, man, there are people to this day who want to politicize it as if this was some peaceful protest, right? So that's what bothers me the most, is the fact that people willingly accept a lie. But to live in this reality, I'll sum it up as saying this. I'm just going to say it, man. White people get to live in ideal America. Black people have to live in real America. All right. We got to deal with the reality. They get to live in how things should be and how they idealize things, how they want them to see. We got to live with the reality. And for me, it's one of those things where, as a black man, I'm mad. As a man of God, I'm mad. And those two are always clashing. Always clashing. I'm a man of faith first, but I'm a black man, and I'm a 6'1" black man that is considered a threat no matter where I'm at. I don't live in the hood no more, but I still have to watch my back in this hood like as if I was on the block. So these things just bubble up and fester inside me, and a lot of times I don't have nowhere to put them. But I'm glad for a space like this to share, because I know y'all can relate.
You know, this is This is an interesting topic, man. I mean, I think even this and George Floyd has been interesting topics because it did something interesting. It prompted, to me, it prompted a lot of white people to think that things could be handled via conversation. And it's like, nah, man. Like things have to systemically change in effort for things to get better. You know, and we also saw what happens in academia happen in real time, right? So the whitewashing of history, it was almost like they tried to make this seem like it wasn't as bad as it actually was. Like y'all attacked the Capitol building, man. You know, this was a insurrection. This was something that, you know, we read about in history books. This isn't something that happens in 2020 or 2021, right? You know, like this was like so extreme to me. It was kind of hard to believe. Like I was like, wow, they're really invading the Capitol building. You know, really? Like it just did it. For a while, it took me a while to wrap my mind around it. You know, it's interesting too because what I've seen as well is that, like, you know, what I've seen is I've seen white people throw in other realms where black and whites can coexist and make it like the world works like that, and it's not true. You know, a lot of times we work well together based on common goal and proximity, right? You know, if there's a common goal and we share a cubicle and I want to get paid and you want to get paid, guess what? We're going to put this presentation together. But that doesn't mean when I go home that, you know, I'm, you know, thinking about how we can become better friends. No, there's a common goal. And the common goal at that time had nothing to do with anything but hate. And that's what I stand by. I just believe that, you know, from a supremacist perspective, it's this eraser, this magical eraser that they've been given, and they can just try to erase stuff and say, well, you know, we don't like that. We're not going to talk about that. Sweep it under the rug. And if you talk about it, we're being sensitive or we're not getting over things. And I don't think it's something that we should get over. To be honest, you know, just the whitewashing of history or whatever it is. And we see it culturally in the workplace. You know, they have some very, very, it's a skill, if you ask me, to be able to act like something doesn't exist. So I don't know where we go from here, to be quite honest, as a people, besides the fact that hate is real. And we just got to really start calling it out for what it is.
Let me quote a J. Cole lyric, Vince. This was on the KOD album. He said, "One thing about the men that's controlling the pen that write history, they always seem to white out their sin." And it's like the narrative, the control of the narrative, right? Whether it's Fox News, these Fox News pundits, or you know, a lot of these social media outlets, you know, they do a good job of spinning, and right, which controls the narrative, and it's really hard to have an equitable conversation where we can really sit down and reason because there's no rationale for a lot of these claims they make. I want to touch on something real quick, man, because when you think about what happened at this insurrection, they charged Congress, the White House, and there were black people in there. I don't know if y'all remember this, but did y'all see that image of the black people locked up in a room taking pictures, posing, taking selfies, right? And it just goes to show that, man, black people gonna do their thing no matter what, even in life or death situations, right? And that makes me think of right now in the middle of this pandemic, the Omicron variant has been relabeled the Omarion variant, right? Why do black people have to always turn lemons into lemonade? Always, man. That's just something I want to throw out there.
Man, not to make this serious, you know, because it's funny, but I mean, that's our existence. We've had to do that. You know, there's not, I don't care what position you're in, how much money is in your bank account. In some regard, Black people have been traumatized in some respect at the hands of America, especially white America, no matter who you are. You know, like you think about somebody like LeBron James. I mean, this dude is a multi-millionaire on his way to making $1 billion, and people still spray painting the N-word on his garage. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, in some regard, it's almost like comedy for us too. You know, we've learned basically what we did with food, we do with our emotions, right? So, you know, they gave us carcasses and they gave us the oxtails and the ribs and, you know, all of these other things. And then we said, well, shoot, we about to make some ribs. We about to make some oxtails, some curry oxtail. We about to take scraps and make beauty. And now I go to the grocery store and oxtails dang near $9 a pound. You know what I'm saying? Like 15 years ago, y'all wasn't eating this, man. Y'all done let, you know, our chefs come on your cooking channel and say, oh, wow, this does taste mighty good. I can make a lot of money from this. You know, our culture gets appropriated. It gets commercialized. It gets so many other eyes that you want to put on it, man. But we've just had to make light of a lot of situations. Like I read Trevor Noah's book. And if you haven't read it or you haven't heard the story, his mother was shot in the head by her significant other. And the way he tells that story in the book is from a comedic stance. But that's traumatizing. Like, your mama gets shot in the head. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I believe that we've been conditioned so long to go through trauma that it's like we gotta make it funny. In some regard, it's been harmful. But you know, it at some point, you know, it's just kind of what we do as people.
I think we could drop the mic on that one. That was very well said, and I think all of us agree.
I'm about to say, man, y'all got quiet on me, man. Y'all ain't got nothing to say. Y'all didn't listen to Omarion? What was it? Yeah, didn't he have a song called, was it Touch It?
Yeah.
I feel like Christina was probably from that B2K poster era. Like, I feel like I could see her with a B2K poster in her room.
I was I was a little bit too old. I was the immature era. So right before.
Okay. Excuse me. All right.
But no, I agree with what you said, but you know, I will say that it's been nice to have some level of comedic relief during this time because we've been in it for so long and there have been so many hilarious memes and videos that have come out of people calling this variant Omarion instead of Omicron. I think the funniest one I've seen is there's like somebody who takes a swab of their nose, and then when they look at it, it's Omarion dancing in that touch video. So I'm thoroughly entertained, and I welcome all the comedic relief right now.
It's like as Black people, man, it's like we're conditioned to laugh to keep from crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then there's a paradox because same thing make you laugh, make you cry. You know what I mean? We just figure out like, I don't know, man. That's me too, man. Like, I just feel like, you know, I remember at my dad's funeral, you know, I'm like, man, I gotta lighten this mood up a little bit, you know. So let me tell a funny story, you know, and all of that goes into our healing. You know what I'm saying? We just can't walk around because look, man, as Black people, we justified in our anger, right? We justified. I mean, I don't know who said this, but someone once said it's a good thing Black people only want justice and not vengeance. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as people, man, we're just open, loving, receptive. You know, there's no other culture, there's no other people who can uh if you invite a white person to a Black barbecue or cookout, that white boy is gonna leave with a nickname. He's gonna be a cousin, right? He's gonna be our light skinned family member. let a black man go to, what we gonna call it, a picnic, right? Let a black man go to a gathering with white people. We're gonna be on edge the whole time, and we're gonna say, "Whew, I got out of there. I got out," like the movie.
You know, picnic comes from pick a nick.
Yeah. Yeah, look at us. Look at us. We just talking about this. We laughing about it, man. But that's essentially that's who we are. It's what we do, man.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. Hey, we're gonna let's wrap this thing up, man. So we are at the beginning of the year. Um, you know, Christina's started us off with, you know, resolutions, but at the beginning of the year, I always start off with, you know, 2 books, one audio book, one on one in black and white, right? And so, you know, and you guys have any book suggestions, not just books, you know, podcasts, your favorite podcast, you know, maybe a favorite scripture or Bible, a book in a Bible that you would suggest for our listeners to pick up and read and enjoy or glean some type of significance out of. So books, podcasts, I mean, your favorite preacher that you would suggest, anything that you would suggest that can help people's mind to be, you know, triggered during this time in the middle of this pandemic.
I can start. I can share a book that I've read that I actually would like to reread, and one that I plan to read this year. So the first one is called, oh, you probably can't see it because I'm blurred. It's called Not Yet Married, and it's by Marshall Siegel. And I read it last year with a small group of women. And it really just talks about dating as well as being single while being Christian. And I gleaned so many great things from it. I feel like it's definitely helped me as I move forward into relationship. And yeah, I would just recommend it to any single person who is trying to date from, you know, a Christian perspective. And the other book that I want to read, because I've been hearing a lot of great things about it, is Relational Intelligence by Darius Daniels. It's been on my list, and I just need to make some time for it. So those are my 2 suggestions.
I got 2 real quick, Leno. One of the guys that wrote this book is a friend of mine. I'm thankful because, you know, he's a man of God that I highly, thoroughly respect. So this is a shameless plug. I bought more than one of these, you know, and I started it, but I need to finish it. Second one is Eerie Silence. My mentor wrote this book, man, and I'm a slow reader, so it takes me. I might read one chapter and have to sit with it for a while before I move on to the next one. And so I'm halfway through this book, literally halfway through. This is a great read for what we talked about in regards to faith, race, America, and just how, you know, it's been American culture to be silent on things that are important. And my mentor, Dr. Sahili, man, he pours so much of his life and his faith and his experiences into this. It's a great read. And then scripturally, read Job 42 in the NLT. I just finished that. And that NLT is New Living Translation. And I read Job 1 through 42. It took me about a month and a half. But boy, some stuff stood out that didn't stand out the last time. But it's a great read.
Yeah, you definitely need to read The Leader the Society Did Not Choose. You need to go buy that right now. You know, Kindle is running the promotion. You know, you get Kindle for a couple months for $0. You can read my book and get my book off there, or Kindle Read app. You can buy it. And, you know, you can get a personalized copy from me. You know, I got some copies. You feel me? But I'm gonna give 2 books, man, that I think could be really powerful. If you're in any leadership position in church, man, I'm gonna be real with you. Or any type of position, or it don't even have to be church. It could just be having a better conversation with people around you. Crucial Conversations, man. This book right here helped me put out a lot of fires in a very compassionate and positive way. So it's a really good book. And another one, man, one of my bishops blessed me with this one. It's a small book, real easy read. I think it might even be maybe 120 pages, but it's called "You Have the Right to Remain Innocent." So it's a very, very good book. It's by James Duane, and it just basically is a guidebook. Honestly, how to talk to the police. So you never know what type of situation you might be in, but he reflects on a number of stories. And you probably should be able to find it online somewhere. But he has this lecture called "Don't Talk to the Police." And so, like I said, one of my bishops gave me this book, so y'all can kind of see what way we on at Genesee Avenue. And then there's another book. The other book is called "White Too Long." And that book talks about a lot of the constructs that have kind of hindered Christianity in America. So that book is called "White Too Long," man. So y'all can check that book out. It's a really, really good read as well. It actually talks about the legacy of white supremacy in American Christianity. So it's a kind of a long read. So, you know, it ain't gonna be something you can just pick up in a weekend and put it and read it. But Robert Jones does an excellent job putting that together. And one more book. I know we said a couple, but I'm gonna give y'all another one. "Reading While Black" by Dr. Esau McCaulley. I had an opportunity to witness that brother in person. That's a cold brother right there, man. So check his book out as well.
I'll say a couple. So I did read Relational Intelligence last year. Fantastic book. If you haven't read it, definitely suggest it. I have to give kudos to big bro Alvin for suggesting it. That hurts me to say that, but appreciate you suggesting that. Also, Leader That Society Did Not Choose. Dope, 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 dope. It's even better when you get a shout out in the book, page 90, if you're wondering. But that was good. One of my favorite books of all time is Strength to Love by Martin Luther King Jr. It's about 15 chapters, and man, it's still relevant today. He just talks about what it takes to love people that don't love you. I think it's super appropriate. From the Bible perspective, I'm actually studying First Corinthians right now, and man, it's amazing how things don't change, even over a long period of time. Like people in Corinth were janky. We're janky. They were doing some stuff that we still do to this day, and the Bible is still relevant to this day. So, yeah, those would be my suggestions.
Man, I'm going with some oldie but goodies. But Kingdom Man and Kingdom Woman, by Dr. Tony Evans. If you want to be challenged to be the greatest man you can be, the greatest woman you can be, with no punches held, read Kingdom Man for the men and Kingdom Women for the ladies. Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Dare to Lead, great book on leadership. Brene Brown, she sounds like she brown, but she's not. She's great. She's great. She's amazing. Listen to a few of her lectures as well. She's just amazing. And then from a biblical standpoint, you know, Genesis and Matthew, the first book of the Old Testament and the first book of the New Testament. They're first for a reason, and there's so much in Genesis. I love Genesis. I'm in Genesis. I live in Genesis. And then Matthew, reading it from the context of it's a kingdom book. It's a book about the kingdom. If you want to be a kingdom person, you learn how to be a kingdom person in the book of Matthew. So, you know, those are my suggestions this month. Holler at me in a couple of months. I may have some other ones. So I believe that's it. Somebody just came from
I came on mute because from a biblical perspective, sorry about that, y'all. So we've been in Ezekiel. So Brother Williams is teaching on Ezekiel. I've been preaching on Ezekiel. Took a little bit of a break from Ezekiel this past Sunday. Still preached on some sort of liberation. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. Ezekiel is kind of a tough book. Not from an interpretation perspective, just tough, like, man, you know, we can be a trip as God's people sometime. And leading God's people can be really difficult. And it really, really kind of hit me to the core, man, the fact that he loses his wife abruptly and he could not grieve her in public. So that book it's been a challenging read, but it's also a very motivational read, especially if you minister in the God's people, man, because sometimes we just don't listen. So, you know, God told Ezekiel, he said, look, they're not going to listen to you because they don't listen to me, but I still want you to talk to them. So I'm thankful for that, you know, so appreciate y'all.
Shoot, that's it for tonight, huh? I don't even know how we close this thing out. You know, stay blessed and stay west. What do? We say, hey man, this is Alvin again.
I got a thought.
What's that?
Maybe we all go around and just one word say, what's the one thing you watching right now?
Watching on television.
Or Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, whatever.
Man. So I started Ozark because y'all be talking about it so much. So I said I'm gonna go ahead and try to look at it. You know, I tried it a few other times, but Ozark.
I stay in the reality TV realm, so there's a new season of Married at First Sight that I'm watching. The show about people who literally meet their spouse at the altar.
You and my wife. I just finished a series on HBO Max called Scenes from a Marriage. Pretty dope. Not for everybody, but pretty dope.
What's it called again?
Scenes from a Marriage.
Scenes from a Marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a HBO series?
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching Succession right now. Dope show. I'm in season 2. So I'm really digging it, man. So if y'all ain't watched that, check that out. It's on HBO Max or HBO as well.
Man, that family's so messed up,
bro.
I just finished The Sopranos on HBO Max. I didn't get to watch that when it originally came out, so I guess that was the beginning of like controversial endings because I was confused. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. All that was it 7 seasons, and I was like, what's going on? But I went back to Cobra Kai, man, and I'm so caught up in Cobra Kai, man. It's so nostalgic and so good, and I'm savoring the last episode because I don't want it to be over.
Well, all right. Until next time.
I said one word.
This is coast to coast. It's coast to coast from Crenshaw to Ohio and back from the Bay to LA. And over there in H Town where they get down. You know, we in the building. We see y'all next time. Y'all stay blessed.